and welcome. It's Tea Talk time where the topics are real, relevant, and talk time. And here is Lady O.
Hello, Tracy, and hello to all of my Americans and my Texans. It is that time again. Of course, you see my shirt says vote, right? Let's see if I can bring it up there. Okay. It says vote. So today is Sold to the Polls, and we are in 1 week of our early voting. And so I want to make sure that if you have not voted, that you vote this week. Could y'all make that commitment to me, please? And spread this word on to all of your children and your co-workers. Let's get the hello, Sister Deborah Baxter. Good to see you. And let's see if we can get some people onto the information today is going to be so important. As we said this morning, we want you to be an informed voter. So we're going to give you some information. And of course, we don't tell you how to vote, but we're going to tell you the issues. And if those issues are things that are important to the person who's running, then that tells you who you want to run for, who you want to vote for, rather. So I've already voted. I voted on the first day. And it was pretty heavy turnout. I mean, I had to wait, but not like a long hour or anything like that. They have a room that's bigger. And I was really kind of intimidated because this is all new stuff. But I didn't have any problem. The only thing I did was it's a long ballot. It's like 90 something people on there. But the good thing about the way they have the ballot set up this year, you know, we used to go in and just vote straight Democrat, straight Republican, or whatever. But now they've got it where if you want to vote straight Republican, you do 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, all the way down. It's straight Republican. If you want to vote straight Democrat, it's 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, all the way down. And then the 3s and the 4s are other people, you know, that write in or whatever they call them. But it's not difficult because if you know which party you want to vote for, you just choose 1 if you're Republican, you choose 2 if you're Democratic. So I found that very helpful for me because you had to, you know, choose number 2, then you had to push it to vote. Then you have to go to the next one. Now think about it. That's 90 some times you got to do that. So take a very light purse. I had to end up putting my purse on the floor because my hand was going to sleep. But I just propped it up against this thing and I knew which party I wanted to vote for. And I just kept doing that number, entering it. So it's really easy. So don't get like that. And then just putting your paper in was really easy. They were really good at helping me to understand. You push it in, then you let it go, let it take it. And then when that's finished, take that one out, wait for the green light, put the next one in, and you go through. When you get through, you take it over to the other bin and you do the same thing, you feed it in. Now, one of the questions I had, because I fed mine in with the answers up, and that's what the lady told me. But then the guy next to me, he told her to make sure her arrow was up, not the questions. So that made me kind of be a little bit concerned. So I questioned her about it. She says, no, this machine, it doesn't matter if it's up or down, but this machine has got to be with the arrow up or else it won't copy it. So I'm hoping that that's true. And we got a guest on here today that might be able to address that, see if he's ever had anything happen. So we've got, let me tell you, the gentleman, of course, we've had him on before because he has his heart for Houston, for his district. He has his heart for the people. And he has his ear to Austin, for our state, to tell us what's going on. And he is a very honest man. So he's going to tell us the truth about everything. And so we need that because we're not in Austin. And some of the stuff we don't quite understand. So we want to make sure that we bring in people who don't mind giving time to come and explain to us before we vote some things. So we're going to go ahead and bring in our special guest, very dear friend of ours, but even more so than friend. He is very qualified in Austin, none other than State Representative John Rosenthal. So let's clap and bring him onto the show. Hello. Thank you for coming.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I've been looking forward to being on with you for all week. Actually, 2 weeks we've been talking about this, right?
Okay, bless your heart. Well, I'm so happy, and I humbly thank you for being able to come on and share because my audience, my platform, they want to know what's going on, and so I want to make sure that they know and they're informed. And I would just encourage them to check everything out to make sure it's true, and that they put their issues behind who they vote for. If they don't have the issues, or if they're not going for those issues, you don't want to vote for them, because we either vote people in. If they do good, we want them to do good. But if they don't do good, we'll have to vote to take them out. And that's what this is all about. So Representative, tell me about your district first. I know they changed you. What is your district, and how's it coming? What do you need from us?
Okay, so first, I still represent House District 135. So my house is in the district, and where First Metropolitan Church used to be in. Folks on here should know that I also worship at First Met. I consider myself a member there, and I'm grateful for always being welcomed by you and your community.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry that the church itself is no longer in my district. So they changed the shapes of the districts.
I know.
Now I go. I live right behind Traders Village, so I'm right off of West Road and Eldridge.
Eldridge, yes.
And so I'm sort of in the northern part. I got all this area right around me, Traders Village, Chimney Hill, all that. And then it works around through Copperfield. And really most of the district now is in between Highway 6 and Highway 99. Going from the bulk of it is between FM 529 and Clay Road.
Correct.
So
and
that
you don't have our church anymore, but you have our home. So we're in that Copperfield area. So you're still associated with us, not only in membership with the church, but you are still got us represented.
Yes. And folks should know I'm actually a mechanical engineer by trade. And I only bring that up today because anything that I say, I promise I have done my homework. I've done my research. I welcome folks to fact check me. And there's some stuff that's a matter of opinion. And then there's some stuff that's a matter of fact. And we should understand the difference between those things, right? And if there are particular issues that you are interested in, should research what these candidates are on those issues. The hot topics of the day are things like voting rights, public safety. We were talking earlier, and we didn't bring up bail reform, but I think we should talk about that a little bit because there's a lot of misinformation being spread about that.
Well, that's why I have you on here, because I want to cover those issues. We want to talk. We want to talk about the issues. Who is for what we're for, who's against or whatever. I think the main thing is we want to talk about who's for it. I don't like to spend a lot of time on who's not or whatever. But once we figure out who our guy is or our gal is that's representing us, that's what we need to know when we go in that poll. And I also want the people to be thinking about, if they're not for us, they're what? Against us on their platform and their agenda. So let's just go ahead and start. Let's start with the voter part first. Is that a good one to start at? Because that was really got me kind of concerned here.
You want to start with what? The governor?
No. Well, we can start with the voting first.
Let's start out with voting, because that is the fundamental part. And that's the piece. The party in charge, GOP in this state, has really sought to make it ever more difficult to register and cast a ballot. They would not do that if it wasn't such a powerful tool. So voting is super important. Today is the end of the weekend, the only weekend for early vote. So early vote is going on right now, y'all. And polls are open today from, I believe it's noon to 6. You can go to harrisvotes.org, harrisvotes.org. You can find the polling locations. And there's a couple of places that are actually pretty convenient to the church. There's a Fairfield Inn and Suites, that's Gessner and the Beltway.
Right.
Of course, near to you all is going to be City of Jersey Village, the City Hall of Jersey Village, that's over there off the Senate or whatever.
Right, that's close to the church.
A lot of folks here will be familiar with the Richard and Meg Weekly Center.
That's where I voted.
That's that I
Greenhouse and Logan Bow.
Greenhouse and Logan Bow. That's exactly right. And then in my district, the new one in my district is the Steve Raddick Community Center, which is on Clay Road, in between. I believe it's in between Barker Cypress and 99,
and
right on Clay Road.
Exactly.
I voted. You can vote at any location in Harris County. If you are voting in Harris County, if you live in Harris County, you can vote at any location, whether it's early vote or on election day. So next week, Monday through Friday, polls are going to be open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I would encourage y'all to vote during the week. Lines will be shorter. It's easier to get in and out. Like Lady O was saying, you got to press on every race. You got to pick who you want and then push next. So it's pick and the next, pick and the next. I found it easiest to have both hands free so I could touch the two buttons, because they go one at a time and there's 90 of them. And it's so important to go all the way through that ballot.
Exactly. And that is important, guys, because we're not just voting for the governor. We're voting for people who are in courts that could make decisions to overturn things. Like if they decided, oh, we're not going to validate the votes of Texas, of Houston or whatever, then they've got court people who can overturn our vote that they're trying to put in place. So this is important that you put all of those people in place to block them from taking your vote.
That's right. There are positions on the Texas Supreme Court. Of course, you got the governor, the lieutenant governor. Those are very, very important elections, obviously. If we could put, and I know you all aren't partisan, but I can be partisan. If we put a Democrat in either of those chairs, it will restore balance to Texas government. It would be earth-shaking, a really, really big deal. The Texas House and the state Senate are going to be governed by Republicans because of the way they gerrymandered things. But the statewide seats like governor, lieutenant governor, you got your land commissioner there. The General Land Office with George P. Bush in it tried to defund our Harvey relief efforts from Houston. $1.4 billion that he zeroed out. And we ended up only getting about half of that. So these races are, and then your county commissioners, you'll have your governor and stuff like that at the top. You'll have your federal.
Step by step, okay? Because these three top positions, I really want to stress again what they are and how they affect us. Because people think, I'm for the president.
The governor of the state decides whether has vast powers. And our current governor right now is using emergency powers. I don't know if you all know this, but they have declared a state of emergency in the state of Texas for COVID still. And while this governor says it's over, there's no mask mandates, still claims that it's a state of emergency so he can use those emergency powers. And I would like to see those used for good instead of evil. And I'll just come out and say it. That dude evil. And I would love nothing more than to replace the governor. But the lieutenant governor controls the Texas State Senate. So the agenda, the bills that will see the Senate floor, all got to be approved by the lieutenant governor. That is the president of the state Senate chamber. We've got a wonderful man, the Democrat. And so it's Dan Patrick is the current one.
Dan Patrick is our lieutenant governor right now. And he's the one that is able to say, this is the agenda that we're going to cover or not, or which things the bills that get through. Am I right about that? That he can block the bill? He can
totally block bills or force an agenda.
Right.
This is the lieutenant governor that pushed the permitless carry. It's the lieutenant governor that currently wants to have a voucher program that will divert public money from our public schools to private schools for folks that want to send their kids to private school. This is the lieutenant governor who is bent on outlawing abortion in the state of Texas. He has said over and over that's his goal. And the one that we have, the Democrat candidate for lieutenant governor, is Mike Collier, and he is a former Republican, so he's a moderate Democrat now. and an expert on school finance, and really a big advocate for public schools and a number of other good causes. Mike Collier is a very good human being. He's from the Houston area. And then your third statewide at the very top is the Attorney General. Our current Attorney General is a person named Ken Paxton, who's under multiple criminal indictments right now.
I know, right? How can he get running an indictment for all these things?
Not only that, his entire senior staff quit on him and filed a whistleblower report because of his corrupt practices in the office.
His staff on him.
Yeah, wow. When your own people quit and point a finger at you and say, they're all conservative Republicans and they quit and they're his people that he hired. And he turn around and say he's too corrupt. We can't even work in that office anymore. And he's somehow leading on the ballot. So we got Rochelle Garza, who's a Latina from the Valley area, and a strong candidate. Somebody, I would prefer not to have our top cop in the entire state, the number one legal opinion in the state of Texas. I would prefer that person not be under multiple criminal indictments.
Well, you would think so.
Seems like we could set the bar pretty low for that one.
Wow.
But there's
those three top ones. That's governor. The two choices are Beto O'Rourke and
Greg Abbott.
And Greg Abbott, our current governor.
So I, of course, support Beto O'Rourke, and I hope most people on here do also. And for those that may have concerns about some of the things that he said during the presidential debates about taking your guns away, he is still going to have to deal with a completely Republican-dominated legislature. So what I mean by restoring balance is if you put a Democrat in that chair, the only things that actually get passed are the things we all agree on. And that really is most of everything. And when everyone agrees, usually that's good policy.
And when you say everyone, you mean everyone at the top tier, the top three, if they all kind of agree?
No, I mean the Texas state legislature. So you'll have the Texas House of Representatives, where I'm a member,
right?
The Texas State Senate and the governor all have to agree for something to become a piece of law. And the lieutenant governor, of course, that he controls the state Senate. So, for example, the two bills that I passed last time, I got unanimous votes in the Texas House and the Texas Senate, and the governor signed them. And so I feel like pretty solid policy if everyone in there is going to vote for it.
Good. Right.
So that's
but it's important though. It almost kind of sounds like whether we get a Democrat in there, the Republicans will still control it if they all have to agree. Is that right?
That's right. So the Republicans will control the deliberating body. So the Texas State House and the Texas State Senate, where all the legislature gets debated and are through our committees and gets voted and all that stuff. It has to be signed by the governor to become law. So if we have a Democrat governor and or lieutenant governor, that means that the only things that will actually get all the way through the process will be the stuff both the House, the Senate, and the executive all agree on. And so that would take the extremism away. It would restore balance to where everybody has to be on board for something to actually get through, even the partisans.
Right. So if we keep our current governor, what kind of things will we be able to? Because I know he stays in. Once we elect him, he's there for is it 6 years or 10 years?
I think it's 6.
Yeah, 6 years. So that means from 2022 to 6 years later, we don't know who's going to be the president of the United States and all that stuff. If we keep the same governor in there, how is that going to hurt us or help us?
So there's a couple of things where, so first, the governor using emergency powers has been able to affect us in a number of ways. He has diverted funding. So in a couple of ways. So first, the governor can accept or deny the Medicaid expansion. And the reason that Obamacare is not fully implemented in the state of Texas is because the governor of the state has refused to accept it. That is $10 billion a year in health care money. And the way the program is designed is to lower cost for all of us and improve availability. So make it more accessible for more people, lower the cost across the board. It's not just for folks that don't have insurance. Everybody benefits if we get that $10 billion a year in funding. It's already come out of our pockets. You know, we've paid the tax.
$1 billion that he's refusing to take. $10 billion?
$10 billion a year in healthcare
Oh
assistance money from the federal government, and it's money that we have already paid our taxes for. So the first thing that happens if we have a Governor Beto O'Rourke is we get that money for healthcare in Texas.
Right.
The second thing that happens is
with that, does that money go for Medicaid or Medicare for our seniors?
Yes, Medicaid, Medicare, and a number of things. It will. The way that it ends up working is when it's implemented, it will lower hospital costs. So we might even be able to reopen some of these rural hospitals that have been closing. It'll also lower insurance costs because the cost of care overall goes down. You know, right now, if you don't have insurance and so you don't see a doctor and things get pretty bad and you end up going to the emergency room, they will treat you. And if you can't pay for it, the hospitals just raise their cost for everybody else to cover the cost of the care for people who are uninsured in emergency rooms. That's called indigent care. And that is a huge cost that our hospitals have to account for. This $10 billion a year, part of that would go to help relieve that indigent care cost. So now you're reducing the cost of care for everybody. It would lower our insurance costs for everyone.
Let me say something real quickly about there that I had a thought, and I'm just trying to figure out if I'm right. So people are always talking about raising taxes, but we found that the rich aren't paying a whole lot of taxes. So if this money is coming from our tax dollars, it's affecting us and not the wealthy because they don't pay as much tax as we do. So I don't know if that's right thinking. I just kind of had that thought.
So we do the poor and the middle class pay a larger percentage of their incomes as tax. And so, but this is already federal income tax. The Medicaid expansion comes out of money that we have already put in. That money has already gone from our pockets. And right now it goes to Ohio and Kentucky and Florida and some of these deep red states like Oklahoma take that money and it comes out of our pockets. You know, folks will say, "Oh, California puts in. They don't take money out. They put in more than they get from the feds." But that's not here or there. But it would if you're worried about our tax rate at home. That's another thing. Is this Republican-controlled government? The governor and the legislature together have refused to take measures to relieve the property tax burden. Property taxes is the largest single piece of funding for the state of Texas. So when we go to pay for our public schools and all the other stuff, property taxes is the biggest piece of that. They have refused to make some of the largest corporations and business properties pay their fair share of property tax. I want to raise tax on them. We just want them to pay the fair share just like we do. And that would reduce the burden on us. It would increase the amount of state money going into our public schools. And therefore the schools don't have to rely so heavily on individual property taxes like you and me.
Wow. And that's really important because a lot of people, when I was in line voting, these people were behind me purposely talking loud, talking about raising our taxes and we got to pay all of these taxes. But they don't realize that the people that they're putting in office are letting the corporations get off. That's why our taxes are so high. If they paid their fair share, then we wouldn't have to pay taxes. But they're putting people in office who allow this. And then we all have to pay the extra taxes. So I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. Let me tell you about our candidate for Lieutenant Governor. Mike Collier was a chief financial officer for a major oil and gas company. That dude knows money and he's an auditor. He knows how to do this stuff. And so when Republicans have refused to collect taxes fairly from these large businesses and stuff, and that burden is so high on us. All people here in Texas, you know, we talk about we don't want to be taxed as high as they are, let's say, in California. The average person, the average homeowner in Texas pays more in property tax than the average person in California in their property tax and income tax combined. Our
Wow.
taxes are already higher in Texas than they are in California. It's because these folks are soaking us. That Republicans are refusing to make corporations pay their fair share, and that means we have to foot the bill for that.
Correct, correct. Okay, well that's good. Let's talk about some more. What about the gun control? That's a big thing for us as African Americans because we're still being targeted and minorities. Which one of the candidates has some power to be able to do something about like those killings of those innocent kids in that high school? I mean, the elementary school, and even more. There's more than that around the country, but I think that's the most recent one I can think of. Who's holding us hostage there?
That's once again the Republican Party. It's the governor and the Republican legislature. But they know that this law that they passed, it was House Bill 1927 last time, was the permitless carry. They know it's unpopular. They know law enforcement didn't like it. Of the 18,000 whatever law enforcement agencies across the state of Texas, something like 96% of them opposed this permitless carry. And Republicans passed it anyway because they are beholden to the gun manufacturers and gun sales, industries. And so this is all a money making thing for the gun
Yeah,
folks at the cost of our public safety. It's our children in schools being threatened. And now it's our churches and synagogues and our shopping centers and grocery stores and Walmarts and stuff too. I mean, so once again, if we elect Democrats in any of these statewide spots, especially governor or lieutenant governor, it's true that the legislature would have to agree to revoke the permitless carry thing or modify the way that works, raise the age to buy an assault weapon, at least, let's say. Winning, if there are electoral consequences to your craziness, then you will back off your craziness because you want to keep your power. And that is sort of the mantra that these right wings live by is if they think it's working for them, they will continue down that path. And I think that House Bill 1927, the permitless carry, that was crazy. The complete abortion ban, where they make it a capital offense that women don't have agency over their own body, that is crazy. If we elect Democrats, those things could be moderated. There's a chance at that. Mm-hmm. If Republicans win, let me just tell you, they're already talking about trying to pass laws in the state of Texas to prevent a pregnant woman from leaving the state. So you think that women's autonomy and public health are already under attack. If these Republicans win again, you ain't seen nothing yet. They're gonna, I don't know if it'll pass, but they're certainly gonna try.
Right. Well, that's something. And I mean, we could not all believe that they were able to change the abortion laws, and they did. And they did it because they put people in place to be able to support it, to lead it and to support it. And that's from the governor and, president on down to the other judges that they have in the infrastructure that they've created specifically so that they can do whatever the heck they want to do. And even if we try to vote it out, because the people did not want this automatic weapon thing, but they did it anyway because they get money from the IRA or whatever you call it, the gun people. They get support, and then it's the people who have a lot of money who they have to dance to and be supportive, even though the American people, the Texans, don't want it. They're doing it anyway.
That's right. The NRA and the gun manufacturers, where a lot of that money comes from, to lobby the state. And some of these policies are broadly unpopular, both with Republicans and Democrats. Yeah. That's a nonpartisan issue. The safety of our children should not be a red team, blue team issue.
It should not. That's what's so sick about it. Our little kids are just being like, they don't exist. They don't care. I mean, anytime you can have children die like that and you don't care and you still are beholden to the NRA, as opposed to these parents who have to send their children to school every day, we need to really think. That's why this election is so important. Who is going to protect your children when they go to school every day? You
So
know?
if you leave the party in charge that's in charge right now, you know what they're doing to improve public safety in schools is they're sending home DNA tests to parents so that you can identify your children if they're blown up so bad that they're
I
indistinguishable.
know. I
That's how
heard
they
it.
say acting for your children's safety. Why don't you do something about the guns?
I know. I
We,
agree.
we can make the schools a little safer. We can harden them, but you need to do something about the guns. You
They do
need to do
something.
something about these unstable folks who are too easily able to access these weapons of destruction.
Right. At a young age, they can't even get a driver's license, but they can get a gun, or they can't buy liquor, all these kind of things, but they can get a gun.
Exactly.
That will not only kill one person, but if you push it, it kills, I don't know how many rounds, but at one time before the kids can even think about what's going on, and it's blowing them up and shattering their bodies into pieces. And I can't understand how parents could not, think about this and rally together and say, look, he's my friend. I think I like him, but I cannot support a person who would support this for children.
Nope, and I agree. And we should continue talking about public safety because there's so many aspects of this. The
Okay.
mass shootings and the availability of these weapons is one thing. And I will say that exasperates problems that we're already having coming out of this pandemic. There's a rise in crime across the country. We got to confront it and not try to shy away from it. But blaming your Democrat judges for a bail reform system that has nothing to do with violent crime is just
talk about that, because that's been on all the commercials that these judges got in here and they let all these criminals on the street, and it's just not true. Can you explain to the people what did they do? What bail reform are they talking about, and what did the Republicans do to help or hinder?
So the bail reform that we want, the bail reform I want, the bail reform that makes sense is for violent criminals to be judged. If you're accused of a violent crime, that you should be judged as a risk assessment. If you are accused of a violent crime, if you've got a violent history or whatever, we should hold that person no matter how much money they have in the bank. And what we did for the bail reform here in Harris County has nothing to do with any of that. This is for nonviolent misdemeanors for people who are not repeat offenders. So first-time offender, nonviolent offense, you ran a stop sign, you had a tail light out, you stole bread and milk from a store, things like that. They can be released on their own recognizance pending trial so that those folks can go back to their families, keep making their living, keep paying their bills, keep going to work. And this has actually been shown to reduce crime and reduce recidivism because they're allowed to be in community. Now, the part where violent criminals are released either on parole or on bail, a judge can set bail. Let's say they set bail at $500,000. Judge thinks that's going to be a surety bond, to make sure that person will show back up for court. If they have money or if the bail bond industry are willing to bail them out for a tiny fraction of that, maybe this person only pays $500 or $5,000 to get out instead of $500,000 assessed by the court. So there's been some move to try to require at least 10% for these bail bondsmen, but it's the business about being able to buy your freedom, which is inherently unfair. And so violent criminals that have deep pockets can return to the streets. The other part of it is overcrowding in jails, overcrowding in our courts, and they have refused to expand the number of courts. We have had, it's been since 1984 since we had a major increase in the number of courts and court facilities in Harris County. Now, 1984, y'all, think about this. I was skinny and I had a full head of long curly hair. And I mean, that was ages ago. And we just got one, or was it two new criminal courts? So the backlog after COVID and all that stuff and the jails being full makes it more difficult to house these people. And so even the violent ones, some of those folks are waiting a year or more for their day in court. We're basically incarcerating them. So it's a very difficult situation. But keeping them should be based on risk and not on how much money they have.
Exactly. But I know when we've looked at some people who've been into jail for little or nothing, and when I say little or nothing, like you said, stealing from the store or whatever, they could be in there for years until their court comes up if they cannot make bail. So letting those people out so they can keep their jobs and they can keep their families together is a help. But I think so that may mean you might be letting a lot of people out, and it looked like you letting a lot of people out, but these are people who just have petty issues. They're not a harm to the society. Now, the people that they're letting out that are killers and things like that, what I'm hearing you say is that these people get the money to get themselves out, no matter how high the bond is, or either the bail bond company is letting them make a deal or whatever.
Yeah.
And is there a limit, or does the judge set that bond, or is there some laws that kind of
Well,
govern?
there are suggested guidelines. So the judges have guidelines to go by for the amount of bond they set, but there's no limit for the amount that the bail bond company needs to collect in order to pay it down. The bail bondsmen, they are not interested in public safety. They're interested in making a profit. So it's inherently immoral, if you ask me, that folks are making profit off the incarcerated anyway. I think we should end for-profit prisons and all of that because it's inherently immoral, right? But as long as we're going to have this industry, let's make them fulfill the intent of the judges. And at least if a judge posts a high bond, that these bail bondsmen don't allow them to pay 1% or sometimes even less of that amount and then bail them out. And it's basically a loan that they can collect later.
Right. But it's like they're doing if they kill some people, I think they shouldn't be able to get out, period.
But I totally agree with that.
I think that they should let them out. And if they say, for instance, a number, if they let 100 people out for stealing bread or gas or, running in, somebody's apartment stealing, and that's 100 people, but they let 3 people out that kill somebody. They said they let 103 people out. Well, it sounds like a lot, but 100 of them were people that were just, misdemeanor things that were not criminal. And I think
I want to remind our listeners that Sandra Bland died in jail because she was in there for, was it a broken taillight or something?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, she did.
And this bail reform would have let her free.
Yeah. See, so that's a very good one. So let's talk about the grid. The grid is passed a little bit, but I still remember my grandkids were spending the weekend with me, and I had all these grandkids with no heat. And, we were locked in one room trying to keep warm together. And some people did not have that in trailer homes and so forth. And they actually died from that. And it was something that could have been prevented. And I hear it's not fixed yet.
It's not. So I'm your subject matter expert on electrical, on energy systems. I'm the mechanical engineer. And I'll brag, I'm the only mechanical engineer in your Texas state legislature right now. Okay. And they would not actually listen to me. So we did do some good stuff to sort of help with that situation. If we have another winter storm that's severe like that, there's some improved communication systems. I think a lot more people would have been a lot safer if we had better warning, if we had better coordination of communication. Like who knew that the power was going to be out for a week or more, and who knew that the water was going to be off, and who knew that your pipes were going to freeze while you were waiting for that to come
and burst, and you have water all over the place, which happened to us. Then you've got to bring people in to get a repair. You can't find anybody because everybody's pipes are burst. So yeah, okay, that kind of stuff.
So all of that. So we did do some of that. The what I call the poles and wires folks, the electrical distribution people here at CenterPoint, that manage that part of our electrical grid infrastructure, is the wires and the distribution network that bring that electricity from the generator to your neighborhood. They have made substantial improvements to their stuff. And the generators have made substantial improvements to their stuff. The thing that caused the heart of our big statewide failure, though, was that the natural gas providers weren't hardened and still are not hardened. And we could get into the whys or wherefores or whatever, but that is still a problem. And natural gas, y'all, is what we burn to generate a large amount of electricity in this state. And so you got to have the gas, you got to have the natural gas, and you got to move it to the electrical generator. And gas doesn't flow in pipes all by itself. That usually needs pumps and compressors, right? You're talking, this is my wheelhouse. We talk about pumps and compressors, gas and turbines and stuff. What happened was, as the gas failed, it choked off the supply for the electrical generation. As the electrical generation started to fail, it made the gas producers' pumps and generators shut down. And so now you're choking off your supply even more. And that caused a circle of failure, a cascade failure across the state. And that critical link between natural gas supply and electrical generation is still a problem. We have not shorn that up, and they did not identify these natural gas fields as critical infrastructure, so they were not required to harden. And so we are still vulnerable from that aspect. It's better than it was, but we're still not out of the woods yet. And if we want to make that happen, you know, the people that regulate oil and gas in the state of Texas is through our government for sure, but the Texas Railroad Commission governs oil and gas production and pipeline and wells and all that stuff. And we happen to have a railroad commissioner on the ballot.
Who is that?
His name is Luke Warford, is the Democrat. Luke Warford. Okay. So you'll know who the D and who the R is. The Republican, the current railroad commissioner, has a campaign financed by oil and gas companies. How is it that the person supposed to regulate the oil and gas companies is completely beholden to oil and gas companies to get themselves reelected?
That's who's funding their campaign. So guess who they're going to pay or play to?
So guess why the oil and gas companies got a free skate when everybody else is held accountable after this winter storm. Natural gas was not. And so if you want them accountable, you need some Democrats in the executive, and it would be real helpful to elect a railroad commissioner who's not beholden to the oil and gas industry. So raise hands. Who knew the Railroad Commission of Texas has nothing to do with railroads, everything to do with oil and gas?
I didn't know it. That's why I have you on here to tell me, because I have no idea. We know what happened. We know we didn't like it. And a lot of us are still struggling to get our houses back fixed up. I don't know why the state didn't give us some funds to help us, because the insurance companies took a hit and they don't want to help us get it back like it was. They want to give us part of what we're needing. And so when it's their fault, seems like somebody would have given some kind of a reparation or some kind of something to help people whose pipes burst because of their not fixing the problem, or being, best buddies or in bed with or whatever, the people who are supporting them financially. That doesn't make sense.
So there's that. The natural gas companies made a huge windfall, billions of dollars in profit because of Winter Storm Uri and the way that this.
He's frozen there. So you're frozen. He'll probably come back with us in just a minute. And so the question was, if you can hear me, is, so why is it so difficult to fix the issues with the natural gas company? I don't know if you're back and you can talk about that, or.
I hope I'm unfrozen. Can you hear me now?
You are.
I got the little warning flag.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we need to do is, it would be nice to elect a railroad commissioner. It's not beholden to them, but a governor or a lieutenant governor again could really make a difference in this area. We could shore up that legislation that really puts the guardrails tighter on the railroad commission and require them to regulate the natural gas providers also.
Okay. All right. So let's look at some other issues right quick. Immigration. Do y'all, I know they're always talking about shipping people to other places. The wall has not been built that we were going to build, or if we built it, I heard somebody say the taxpayers ended up paying for it, anyway, not the Republicans, but I don't know. What's going on with the immigration?
So that is more of a federal issue. What's really going on in Texas is your governor is diverting billions of dollars of state money that needs to go for other things here to a Operation Lone Star, which is a failed supposed to be border security operation run by the state of Texas. It is doing nothing down there but putting our troops at risk of committing suicide. So there's a dramatic increase in suicides among our National Guards folks who are supposed to be part-time military that the governor has had down there for a year and a half now. He's diverting billions of dollars from the department, from a number of agencies, including the Department of Criminal Justice. He's literally defunding law enforcement for this failed operation at the border. And at $2 billion a year, let me tell you some of the stuff we could do with that in the state of Texas. We could, for a tiny fraction of that, we could feed all the children in all the Texas schools for free, lunch, breakfast and lunch every day for free. For a tiny little piece of that, we could lower our property taxes. We could better fund our schools. I mean, we could help improve funding for the IDD children and communities. That's the intellectual developmental disabilities population in Texas. We are the worst in the country at what we spend on the most fragile and the most vulnerable among us. So if budget is your priorities and this governor is moving billions of dollars to a failed operation at the border, why can't we do something like, I don't know, care for some children, get some health care for seniors, improve the situation for our veterans? He is not affecting the immigration situation. I have strong opinions about that, but it's that the state government, the area that we're actually going to be working in here, is not going to be the long-term solution to the immigration problem. That's a federal issue. I do think that should be handled administratively instead of militarily. And it's the same sort of thing. We're talking about jailing, basically enslaving our youth in these for-profit prisons, a lot of them for crimes that are not that big of a deal, like we could legalize cannabis, exonerate all of those people who are incarcerated on nonviolent, low-level drug charges.
Yeah. There's so much we can do, and I think the point you're making there too is that seems like to me the governor has the decision about what happens there with that money, and it comes down from federal. I guess when we were talking about immigration, when our former president was in there, Trump. I mean, I don't know. It seems like, and what I'm hearing is that those things were set in place, and they've been funneled down to the local, the state which is our governor, to follow suit and continue that program. So I think it needs to be something that needs to be done by both parts, but it seems like this is something that was already put in place before.
A lot of it was, and really, this I won't say it's a non-issue. I'm not, anyone who says, "Oh, Democrats are for open borders" or anything like that, nobody is for chaos. Nobody is for open borders. We all want to find workable solutions. And using human beings as pawns, like this governor has done by loading them onto buses or planes and flying them across the country to Democrat-held cities and states, that is not a solution. That is a political stunt, using people as pawns. It's inherently immoral, and it does nothing to actually address the problem. There are ways that we could go about debating and discussing solutions for these, and we need cooler heads in office to even be able to do that.
Great. Well, listen, I don't want you to go away. You've got about a 3-minute clip on from Beto O'Rourke. Can you stay and comment and close us out after we hear that?
I am more than happy to do that.
Okay. All right. Team, if you all can put a Beto O'Rourke's speech that he did.
To the polls. To the polls. And we are blessed today to have in our midst one who should be considered as we go to the polls. He's a native of El Paso, graduate of Columbia University, formerly represented the 16th Congressional District in Texas. He leads Powered by the People. They've registered over 250,000 voters. He is a husband. He's a father. He's a man for the times, a man for people like me and you. I want to bring up Beto O'Rourke. Come on up here.
Ogletree, First Lady Ogletree, Dr. Ogletree, thank you so much for this extraordinary, gracious invitation to join you, to be with you, and to offer a very brief message of hope and thanksgiving at a time that we need some hope, given the challenges that we face in this state. And I want to reassure you from my vantage of having traveled the state of Texas that the failure that we see around us in our government, being the least insured state in the country, having gun violence as the leading cause of death for children and teenagers in Texas, talking about a winter that is coming, a grid that is still not fixed or prepared to make sure that the heat is on, the lights work, and the water flows when we need it most, and a democracy that is under attack here, more so than it is anywhere else in America today. That is not us or of us. That might represent those who are in power, but is not reflective of the people of Texas. And as the bishop just said, on this, the one and only Sunday of early voting, we all hold within our hands the power to overcome these challenges. And I want you to know that we can, we will, and we've overcome much greater ones before. Because as hard as it is to vote in Texas today, and it's harder to cast your ballot here, harder to register to vote than it is anywhere else in America, we've been up against this challenge and overcome it before. 1923, 99 years ago, the state legislature forbade voting by black Texans. It wasn't count the bubbles of in a bar of soap. It wasn't how many jelly beans in the jar. It literally said in black and white in state statute, if you're African American in Texas, you will not vote in our elections. There was a doctor in El Paso, Dr. Lawrence Nixon, who paid his poll tax that year nonetheless, presented it at his regular polling place, tried to vote, and when they told him that they would not allow him, he said, I know you can't, but I've got to try. And for the next 21 years, those seeds that he sowed in El Paso and throughout the state of Texas were picked up by others, including Dr. Lonnie Smith, right here in Harris County, from Kashmere Gardens, in fact, who also tried to vote and took his case all the way to the United States Supreme Court and won it, and began the integration of our elections in 1944, followed by LBJ and the Voting Rights Act in 1965, followed by Barbara Jordan, the first African-American woman elected to Congress from a state of the former Confederacy, who expanded that Voting Rights Act. I'll close with this. They overcame much greater challenges with their perseverance, their courage, their strength. We are the heirs to their service, to their sacrifice, and to their struggle. What we do with this inheritance will determine our future and define us in the eyes of our kids forever after. We must come through right now. We must do all that we can with what we have, where we are. Let us use this right to vote. Let us invite our friends, family, colleagues, classmates, and neighbors to do the same. And in so doing, we will be the worthy heirs of that sacrifice and overcome the challenges of this moment. Thank you for voting. Thank you for allowing me to address you. Bishop, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. So we had a great time today, and we welcome you to come back too. Just let us know. And even our Republican friends, we would love to hear from you guys. So the governor, if he wants to come, we'd love to have him there to hear from him. So they just need to let us know if they want to be on T-Talk. They are welcome to come, all right? Because we just want to hear the truth, and because we're trying to make the decisions that are best for us. So if you got a program for us, bring it on. We want to hear it. Okay, so Representative Rosenthal, I'm going to let you close out, have closing thoughts, and then you're going to give us whatever else you need to say to us to get us ready to get to that poll and vote.
Very good. So first, again, thank you so much. It's such an important conversation. I do want to briefly mention about our county government, our county commissioners and our county judge, Lena Hidalgo. And of course, I'm supporting Leslie Briones. The Republicans on this court have pulled a political stunt by refusing to show up, refusing to make quorum to vote on the tax rate. And in an argument over how much less to make it, because let's be clear, both the budgets proposed were a decrease in the tax rate because our property taxes are going up so fast, they get more money anyway. but
Right.
this act by them is going to hurt people. It's going to defund our police by $100 million a year. It's going to reduce the amount of money that's available for healthcare, for flood control, for all those things that our county government has been doing such a good job. And I know they're spending millions of dollars in advertising to convince you that Lena Hidalgo is bad, but she has been a fierce fighter for the people and willing to do things that might be politically unpopular or politically difficult for the sake of the people. You could not ask for a more fierce fighter. So do vote. They're all the way at the bottom of the ballot. So it's a good time to say, vote from Beto at the top to Briones at the bottom and everything in between. Please persevere. Go to harrisvotes.org. You can find the nearest polling place to you, either today until 6 p.m., all week 7 to 7. Tuesday will be election day, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., Tuesday, November the 8th. God bless you all. Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, and thank you so much for bringing up Lena Hidalgo, because I meant to bring her up earlier because I just love her. And I'd love to have her on as well. Just let her know if you've got her contact information, because a lot of misrepresentation has gone out about her, and she doesn't have nearly the money that the opponent has. And what we did was, when we were doing fact checking and so forth, we traced the money. Where is this lady's money coming from? And of course, you know where it went back to, being back up to all the way to Trump, and his supporters and finances that he has to get her out. And so she doesn't have the money. And so the one other thing too I want to put on there is that I would like for you guys to find some money somewhere in your budget to give to these candidates, so that, because it's really hard when you're trying to run a campaign. I've done that for Bishop, and it takes money. So if you could give some money to John Rosenthal or Lena Hidalgo or Beto O'Rourke, give some money somewhere. We could just not eat out for one day, or say we're not going to do Starbucks for a week, or whatever it is we do. Take that $100, take that $1,000, whatever it is you have, and put it towards someone who's going to represent you for the next 6 years. So that's all I have to say about that. So look up Lena Hidalgo. I don't know which number she is on the ballot, but I know she is a Democrat. And like I told you, I'm not telling you how to vote, but if you want to vote all Republican, you click number 1 all the way down to 90, whatever it is. If you want to vote Democrat, you click number 2 all the way down, and that's the easy way to do it. Now, somebody asked a question on here about the different referendums at the bottom about taxes. Do you know anything about that or have any thoughts on that?
Real quick, I'm for both of those propositions. I think they're generally good. They're county propositions, and so I'm for those. If we could do a whole nother show on what.
Okay, I know we don't have time. I just have.
But I'll just say I'm for them.
Okay, very good. Thank you. One more question was asking how to get money to you all, and I would think that it's go to your website. Is that correct?
That's right. If you Google Lena Hidalgo or John Rosenthal TX, you'll find us. Direct contribution is the best way to go.
Right.
Instead of through these PACs. PACs give money and stuff, but I'm running a complete grassroots campaign. Mm-hmm. So, and also I'm easy to find. If you want to shoot me a note and come knock on some doors, convince your neighbors to vote, or just call them. Call your family, call your friends. Make sure everybody votes. It's that important.
Okay, so I have one more thing I want to say here, and I'm going to have to put it in the chat, but I did get a message from Janice Weaver, and she was saying that they are paying people to pass out flyers. So if you're interested in a little job where you can stand there and pass out the flyers, some campaigns are paying for that. And so she gave me a list of people here, and sorry I didn't have it already prepared, but we can put it in the chat for future people that are scrolling down. We'll get that on there. Okay, but you can, if you want to work the polls and you want to get paid, we can pay you. If you want to come out and just help John Rosenthal pass out flyers, he loves to knock on doors, go walk the halls with him, the streets. Please do something and take at least 5 people with you to go vote, okay? And go help somebody, give some money, and go walk and pass out flyers. And let's do all we can to make sure that change moves forward and not backwards. Well,
Please.
thank you for being my guest, Representative Rosenthal. Love you. And we're going to see that you get in there as well and do all we can for you. I've already voted for you, but I'm going to encourage other people to do the same. Okay. And that's all I have. This is Lady O with Tea Talk. I'll see you next week at 3 for another hot topic. Bye-bye. Go